Again, don't get overwhelmed. You don't need to memorize everything about this stuff. Just know that this stuff exists. Okay. So, quick reminder about in points and out points. If I hit my I button, so we're down here right now on the timeline, hit my I for in point, and I'll scroll over here for out point. This has various meanings. Okay. Means a lot of different things. If I were to export this, it's only going to export from my in point to my out point. Maybe I want to use one of these lift or extract features. Watch if I lift, it'll remove that in point to out point. Or if I extract it, it'll remove it and bring these two together. Again, I'm going to hit Command Z and undo. So that's an in point and out point. In point and out point has real ramifications in terms of what you just saw in exporting. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and clear these endpoints by control clicking and going clear in and out. Now let's talk about markers, which markers aren't actually, well, they're real, but they don't actually affect your in point, your out point, or your export stuff like that. It's not an in point and out point. So I'm going to hit the letter M, and notice how it created a little marker here. And I'll scroll forward. I'll hit the letter M again, and it creates another marker. These are timeline markers. So if I move my clip, the markers don't change. Now if I highlight my clip and I hit the letter M, it creates a clip marker. It's a marker on the clip. And you may have guessed it. Look, if I move my clip, it follows the clip. Okay? And so what are markers? Well, they serve various purposes. They can simply just be a marker to remember something of where you are, like a post-it note. Or you can click your marker again. Let me double click it here. And you can actually give this marker a name, comments, customize the color. Maybe that's all it is, a comment, or maybe it's a chapter marker, like if you're exporting to a DVD, right? We don't do that as much anymore, but again, it could be a web link, different little kind of information you can add to these things. There's kind of really no end in sight to what you can customize here. So that's a marker. And by the way, the marker's down on the clip. Double clicking right now. Get in there. It's not pulling up right for me right now. But if I hit M twice, there you go. Same thing. You can do it. You can do it. You can customize the same kind of information down there. Another thing, again, don't worry about memorizing everything. Just know that it exists. I want to talk about something up here in the program window. Now you notice I have these little bars here. It's not very visible. Let me see if I can get to a frame where it's more visible. So you see these two squares that surround this? These are safe margins, okay? The outer line is an action safe margin, meaning you don't usually want to show things outside this line. Now obviously you see things here, but you don't want to have anything important like someone's head or a hand or a sign outside this line. And the inside line is a title safe margin. We typically don't put titles outside that line, just as a rule of thumb. So for example, if I'm going to make a title, I'm going to call this Premiere Tutorial. Oh no, how about this? I'll call it Title Safe Line. That's better. I'll go over here to my cursor tool so I can move it. I'm going to put it right on the line. So it's a nice little feature to just so your titles don't get too far out, and it just kind of makes it so what am I going to say? So things don't get too far to the edge. It can be hard to read. How do you turn these on? Number of ways to do that. More than one way to do that, right? So you can right click up in your program monitor and go to safe margins. See how it's checked? If I click it again, they disappear. So again, right click, safe margins. But you can also add a button in our button editor. That's it right here. Little mini double square. Drag it down there. Okay. Again, on, off. This is more relevant back in the day when people primarily just watch things on television because different televisions have different types of borders. But typically for like exporting to YouTube, the borders are pretty universal, so this doesn't come into play as much. But this is really good to use for titles, the inner line. That way your titles remain consistent. And that makes it look better. So one more thing with terms of guides. So check this out. View, show ruler. Now, the ruler is a ruler of pixels, okay? Let me show you what I'm talking about. It's a little weird. So this video here, if we go back in my project window, which is currently an icon view, and look at the video info, you'll see that it's 2048 by 1080, okay? Which I believe that's 2K. 2048 by 1080. And look up here, 0 to about 2048, and then up here, 0 to 1080. I know you can't read it, but trust me, it's 1080. In fact, let's make it slightly smaller. See what happens if I can do that. Oh, it got bigger. Sorry about that. There we go. Okay, so this is just for being extremely precise. I've never used it personally, but if you need to do pixel accurate kind of alignment, that's what it's for. Secondly, you can create custom guides. So just like we have these safe margins, which are actually invisible, you just use to align stuff. If I simply put my mouse up here, click and drag, look at this line appears, right? And by the way, look, when I get to the very bottom, oh, it's getting cut off, but it says 1080. Okay, just to show you that's a 1080th pixel, right? Full 1080 HD. So and I can, anywhere I let go, boom. It keeps that line there. Why do you need it? I don't know. Maybe you want it. There's no reason for it unless you need it. And to remove it, you simply drag it back up and it disappears. Okay. So those of you familiar with Photoshop, you'll recognize that. These are just, lines to help you align stuff for whatever you might need to align things for.